Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome to our Wednesday live cast for the WikiTree Challenge. We have Mary Roddy here with me this evening, and
Hi there.
we're going to do the introduction kicking off her week. So I know everybody's excited and anxious to get working on something again. We have this week to play around and add stuff to other weeks' branches and have a little fun on our own branches, but we are going to get back at it.
Yay.
Woohoo! And before we go ahead and do the introduction on Mary, I'm going to talk a little bit about WikiTree for anybody that is new. So far, I recognize all the names down there, but you never know who all is watching. Now, WikiTree is a community of genealogists who are working together on a single family tree. In other words, we collaborate to grow an accurate global tree that connects us all, and it's free. The WikiTree Challenge is a year long event and part of our Year of Accuracy, where each week a team of WikiTreeers takes on a genealogist star's tree, and we try to make it more accurate and complete than it is anywhere else. Our goal, of course, is to improve our accuracy on WikiTree, add more family connections, and make more friends. And we've certainly done that a lot this year. Now, this last week, we spent time with family. We added more information to previous challenge weeks. But this year, we're going to go ahead and feature Mary of the Applied Genealogy Institute. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that collaboration first, because, of course, collaboration is key. And that is what WikiTree is all about. So, one of the ways we collaborate is to use the spreadsheet, which you see on the left. When you get 25 or even upwards of 50, and we have reached that number quite a few times, participants working on one set of branches, it's really, really easy to step on somebody's work or to spend a bunch of time researching to find out that somebody else got to the profile and did the same thing you did. So, this lets others know what we're working on, and then it helps us kind of separate things so we spread out and our skills aren't wasted. Now, one of the other ways is using our G2G forum, which of course is our genealogist to genealogist forum. um, we go ahead and post a new post each time we have a guest, and then team members can put interesting finds, they can put comments, and the biggest thing we use that for right now is tracking those bounty points, and it kind of helps us mark our progress and what we're on. Now, the third way we collaborate is Discord, and we have definitely used that a lot this year. That is our live chat platform that we're using. It goes on all during the week. As we are a global site, we have people chatting in the rooms almost around the clock, and sometimes it is around the clock during a challenge week. There we can ask for translation help, a second set of eyes, a newspaper lookup, um, maybe just some motivation, and have people, tell you that you're on track and what you're doing is right. And now, while it's not all about the points, and I know we did not have a week, so I am borrowing the board from last week, a point system does help people keep them motivated, and it helps them be aware of their own progress. So now there's two ways that they can earn points during the week. The big points, of course, are the bounty points, and that would be 10 points for the first ancestor they find on each line that was not on the primary tree, or a corrected ancestor. Now, the second way is individual points for nuclear family members. So that's where they've added siblings or children. And let me tell you, if we have branches with large families, that can add up really, really fast. At the end of the week, we always look and see how the scores were. We like to go ahead and uh, congratulate our top five, as well as list our MVP, which is our most valuable player. Now, last week, of course, it was Dieter. He's one of our German experts, and he was just tearing those brick walls down left and right. It was pretty amazing. So now we're going to get to the fun stuff. This is what we've all been here for. And we have plenty of time to talk tonight because we don't have any kind of a reveal to do. So we can just sit and chat with Mary and find out what she's going on. So Mary teaches Irish genealogy at the Applied Genealogy Institute. She has a bachelor degree in liberal studies and a master in professional accounting. She holds certification for genealogy and family history from the University of Washington. She's credentialed by the Board as Certification of Genealogist. She's the treasurer for the Association of Professional Genealogists. She's a trustee on the board of certification for genealogists, and she's published many articles in various different publications. And so, is there anything there that I've missed?
I
Mary?
think that's probably enough.
Yeah, and in her free time, she has no free time. So,
She quilts.
oh, I love quilting. You'd have to show us what you do with it. So, Mary, now what got you interested in genealogy to begin with?
I had a friend, we were preschool moms together, and she did genealogy, and she kept wanting me to do it. It's like, no, I'm too busy. I have 3 kids and a house and a job, and no, I don't have time to do that. But my husband is a university professor at Seattle University, and he had a Fulbright scholarship at the University of Limerick. And I knew I had some Irish ancestry, and I was sure that when the kids were in school and he was at work, I could do all my Irish genealogy. I had not done any genealogy whatsoever before, so it didn't go very far, but I just fell in love with it. So I started doing it in 2000 when Mark had a sabbatical.
And if you had to pick one, who is your favorite ancestor that you found?
I think it was probably my great-great-grandfather, John Fields. He a picture hung of him in my great aunt's house, and I have it now in my house, and I just love it. He's got this white beard, kind of looks like Santa Claus. I dress up the picture for different holidays. I put like a Santa hat at Christmas, and he wears a Irish hat at St. Patrick's Day, and for Halloween he dresses up as Irish. But he, because of that picture, and then his obituary. I mean, that's the way they wrote people's obituaries in 1900. They never said anything horrible. Everybody, basically winds up as a saint. But
a saint,
yeah. And of course he was. And so it was just really charming. And he lived to be almost 100 years old. He was born in 1801 in Ireland, County Meath, and died in 1901 in Amador, California. And he just a few months shy of being 100. And the town, apparently, the story was that they were going to throw a 100th birthday party for him, and they got really mad when he died on them.
He just needed to hang out for a little bit more time. Huh?
Yeah.
So what other interesting stories have you found out about your family along the way?
One of the things that was really interesting that I found is my dad had told me a lot of stories about his father. I never met either of my grandfathers. They both died before I was born. But my dad told me a whole bunch of stories, so I thought I knew pretty much everything about my grandfather. But then when I was working on my portfolio for BCG, I used that family, my Kircher line, as my kinship determination project. And I discovered that I knew my grandfather had gone to Dartmouth. I have his diploma. And I knew what he studied there. But then I found a catalog, and his senior year at Dartmouth, he was also a first-year medical student, which I had no idea about.
Oh, wow.
And I don't even know if my dad knew that. I can't wait to get to heaven and ask my dad, do you know that? Did I discover that? And you didn't even know that? So anyway, that was really cool to find. And then I have another family, my Bradley family, and that's one of my brick walls I'll talk about in a little bit. But there were 10 kids in this family, and one of the brothers named his siblings in his will and named 3 sisters, my sister Mary Bradley, and my sister Catherine Bradley, and my sister Jane Bradley, and my sister Nancy McGillen. So I thought that meant that he had 3 spinster sisters, but no, those 3 sisters, growing up with the surname Bradley, married men with the surname Bradley. So
yeah, what are the odds? I mean,
3 of them, and I could find information on the 3 Bradley ones. I cannot find Nancy McGillen. She's killing me. So
she's going to go on the list of ones we want to put our bloodhounds on.
Yes.
Now, when did you first discover WikiTree?
So I do what I call bagging a live one. I love descendancy research. And so, however I could find, family members and then try to track them forward. So I think that's how I discovered WikiTree, just Googling people or, using different websites, and wound up with WikiTree. And it's been really helpful to be able to find people that way. And trying to do DNA research and figure out who are those matches, how are we connected to them, and WikiTree is really great for finding those siblings and other people that I maybe don't know about.
Yeah, they're awesome. I know the WikiTree profiles are such good cousin bait for that, and I don't know how many times I've had somebody and they're like, "Oh, I was just doing research on my great great grandfather so and so, and this profile with your name popped up." They're like, "This is so great. Let's talk."
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
can kind of exchange information where, before only using that other paid private site, sometimes it felt like I was just butting my head against a wall trying to reach out to people and they don't want to share their tree, or they get suspicious, when you say, "I want to find out how related," and they're like, "Don't ask me questions. I don't know who you are."
Yeah, exactly.
And here you can actually go out and look and go, "Oh, okay, I can see now. I attach to that part of their branches." So,
Yeah.
oh, look, Shelly made it.
Hi, Shelley.
Hi.
We're Gen friends.
Ooh, awesome. I know we were talking before we went live about how many of you guys that we've had as guests this year know each other in some capacity, or either friends or.
Yeah, well, there's this Gen Friends group that we meet every Monday. Sherry Passy, um,
She's
Melissa
awesome.
Barker, Shelley. So yeah, there's been a lot of Gen Friends that are your WikiTree people too.
Yep, they've taken the challenge this
Yeah.
year. Now, what would you say are your toughest brick walls right now?
Well, trying to find that Bradley family. I have this will of the Reverend James Bradley. Um,
Right.
that was kind of another story that I got his will, and most of them were farmers or whatever, and this guy was a priest for over 50 years, and pretty prominent. So if you read any of the siblings obituaries or the nieces and nephews, they all kind of seem to refer back to related to Reverend James Bradley of Newry. Um, and he left an extensive will with over $85,000 worth of specific bequests in it in 1883. Um,
Wow.
and named, to the heirs of my brother Peter, to the heirs of my sister Mary, or well, Mary was still alive. Only two siblings were still alive. So anyway, I've been able to track most of the siblings except for this Nancy McGillen. I don't know whether she ever came to America. I think I have maybe found her son, but Daniel, but I can't. I don't know if she died in Ireland or I just can't find her, what the deal is. I don't know who her husband is because he's not mentioned. So I just know
Uh-huh.
it's the mysterious Mr. McGillen. Um, and so, and I don't know who their parents are.
Oh,
And that is one. I mean, and I found there's two gravestones that mention this place, Lisbon, in the parish of Upper Botany, County Tyrone. And I could not find Lisbon, and I looked for years, and I'm like reaching out on websites and whatever to try to find it, message boards. Anybody know where Lisbon is?
right.
Nothing. It's not a townland. And I was looking for a townland. It's not a townland. But when I was teaching my App Gen course on Irish research, I was playing around with Griffith's valuation maps and I'm just going to drive around Upper Botany Parish and see if I can find Lisbon. So I'm like, way zoomed in and just,
Uh-huh.
and I found it. It's just a little
Oh,
teeny tiny
wow.
crossroads. So I know where they're from. But the Catholic records aren't extant from that time period. So I can't figure out who the parents are.
Ooh.
So at least I can't find them. When one of the sisters died, she also died in 1883 or 1884. And supposedly she was 117 years old, according to this obituary. And her son had written back to Ireland and they gave him her baptism record. So he knew how old
Wow.
his mother was.
Yeah.
But the problem was, if you believe that 117 age, she would have been like 48 when she had her first child and 60 when she had her last. And I just don't think that's true. I think they pulled somebody else's record, maybe
With
the
us.
church in
Yeah.
Ireland, that same name.
Same name.
But anyway, so I'd like to know who the parents are. I talked about John Fields being my favorite ancestor. He's from County Meath, 26 miles from Dublin, wherever that is. No, some nameless place in County Meath, 26 miles from Dublin. But I don't know who his parents are or exactly where that place in Dublin or in County Meath is. I'd like to know about that. His wife was Mary Devlin, and they have a huge monument in Amador, California, actually in Sutter Creek, Amador County, and it's a pretty ornate. Mary Devlin or Fields, beloved wife of John Fields, has her exact age on it and everything. Kills me. She's the beloved wife of him. But he's not on. He's got to be buried there. But they never carved his name on the stone.
Oh no!
Oh, how dare you! And I have a name for her father. She's a native of County Armagh, and I think her marriage record says she's the son or daughter of Henry Devlin. But I don't know anything about her mom or where in County Armagh they came from. So that would be another one. And then I have some German ones too that
yeah. I was going to ask you about those German lines. What do
yeah,
you
see
know?
that Kircher bit, that's where this comes from. So my great-great-grandfather, Karl Conrad Friedrich Kircher, was the immigrant. He was born in 1821, just had his 200th birthday a week or two ago. And his parents didn't get married till I think going on the third child, because the family story was that the groom's parents did not approve of the bride's family. They were the groom's parents thought they were pretty hot stuff. I think they were pretty educated, and didn't want their son to marry the daughter of the surgeon, but it was a barber surgeon. So not they, I don't know. They looked down their nose at her. Anyway, I'd like to know more about her family, the Shonemans. And then, but when you go up the Kircher line, a couple more generations to my fifth great grandfather on that line, he was a cantor. And he's as far as I can go. I got his name, Jacob Kircher. And I just, since that's my end of the line ancestor, I want to go further. Huh? Yeah, like, yeah, let's go. So I want to know more about him. And then other Germans, I've got the Sprenger family, and
Right.
They lived in Germany in the Pfalz region, and then immigrated to America, and lived outside of Syracuse in a little Liverpool or Salina, New York. And my great-great-grandfather was a cooper. The salt industry was very big there. And right. So he and at least one brother that I know of were coopers, owned property. I found their property. And their father died in 1864, and he was survived by 6 children. And I only know 2. So who are the rest of them? Wow. I mean, I think I maybe have names, but so my third great grandfather, the one that died in 1864, was Friedrich Jakob Sprenger, and he there was like a national German religious Lutheran German language newspaper, and I was able to find a university in Illinois, I think, that has them on microfilm. So they sent me like
Oh,
the
wow.
entire 1864, 550 pages or something, and kind of in
Wow.
July. So I had to go like all the way through it to try to find this thing. But it was in there. But it just said survived by 6 children. I was like, could you give me some names, people?
Wow. I know,
So
right? It's like when you find a will and you're really excited and it just says my wife and split it between my 6 children.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, no, I want you to say Dan and William and and
Yeah.
his wife Sherry and
Yeah. I was talking to somebody today about, my name the sons and then my 6 daughters. It's like, oh, thanks.
I
Yeah.
know.
Mhm.
Or the ones that say, they go, "Oh, Daniel and John gets this," and then the remaining amount of the children, or all of the children of my second wife. Okay, who are all the children and what second wife?
Well, that's kind of like with this James Bradley will. Um, he just says to the heirs of my brother Peter. Well, I know Peter because that's my line, and I know who his kids were.
Right.
And Jane just had one daughter, so I got her down. But the rest of them, I don't even know how many I'm looking for.
Uh
So,
huh.
yeah, it's a
And
little
we do
little
like to
tough.
take a really, a whole family approach here when we do the challenge, because that the more people that you can add into those family groups and connections, not only is that opening you up to more possible cousins, but also sometimes when you hit those spots that you're stuck in or records that you can't find, if you add in their 8 children or 10 children and you start looking at the records for them, sometimes something pops up that says, oh, the land my dad gave me, or oh, my mother's maiden name was, or her brother's name was, or something like that. You
Right.
find all those little tidbits. So we really love to fill those families in and not just climb, on a straight line out that tree.
Yeah. I mean, um, and I was teaching in my App Gen Institute class, the Irish class, that, I mean, I don't think you can do genealogy well without the fan club research, but I don't think you could do Irish research at all because a lot of them, disavowed Ireland or whatever, just because they just kind of wanted to forget whatever. But if you research them all, somebody will say County Cork. That's how I made it back on my Ahern line because somebody says County Cork and somebody else has got an exact birth date. So when you can find the records, then you got it. And somebody else has the mother's maiden name, and but they're just little pieces that you
Pieces.
have to put them all together. Nobody has all the information.
Right. Yeah, and I love we were talking before we went on air also about the size of the groups. And I think the smallest we've really ever had is 25, and that was on a pretty slim week. We usually get, around 35. It can be up to 45 people working. And one of the fun things to watch is when we hit one of those spots where you just can't find anything, and somebody will be like, I have got to prove this marriage, or I have got to figure out what this other kid's name was, and 6 or 8 people will stop what they're doing and they're like, okay, tell me what you want me to look at, and this person will go on that way and this other person will start checking deeds, and and they all kind of just work on that same group problem, and it's just amazing to watch. It's so much fun. It's very cool. you
Nice.
can't you can't get that type of research done anywhere else that I've seen but on WikiTree. So I know when the weeks that we haven't had weeks that we start going through Discord withdrawal because we're in there this week going, okay, I haven't had anybody to talk to. Nobody told me good job with that record. Nobody offered to look up an obituary for me. Okay, somebody tell me where you're eating for Thanksgiving.
Oh.
We've gotten really used to our WikiTree cousins this year and our communications and our help. So
Well,
oh,
I just so appreciate this, having somebody do this. I'm just so excited, and I just feel so honored that you guys reached out. Um I want a car. This is more exciting.
oh, well, there's nothing wrong with that. I tell you what, And I know every one of the guests has said that they appreciate it, but we do too. And, it just feels like we are giving people gifts all year long. We aren't just waiting for the holidays or somebody's birthday. We've been giving the gift of being able to do this research for them and introduce them to ancestors that, they didn't know anything about. I mean, all year. It's been amazing. It's been just an incredible experience. So. Lynette's telling on me. Yes, I posted a picture of my apple rose. And Willadine was talking about the quilting and saying how it's symbolic of, having to put those little bits together like you were talking about on a family tree, that it takes all of those little pieces to make a whole.
This quilt behind me is one, I call myself a forger. I always wanted a signature quilt, and I don't have one, didn't ever inherit one. So I made my own. I found ancestral signatures on documents, whatever I could find.
What a great idea.
And so I sized them and then traced through with using a light box and a pen, and traced through onto fabric and put it into a quilt. So it was really fun. I have one document that on my husband's line that there was a man who got married. He was underage. He signed the marriage application. Since he was underage, his father had to sign it, and they needed a witness. So his father-in-law signed it. So that was a threefer. So that was pretty cool.
Okay, so I'm going to tell my mother-in-law, Sandy, if you're watching this tonight, Mom, that's what you're going to do for the next reunion. Make one of those quilts and make everybody at the reunion come in and sign it. The things you don't think about, though, it's like the relatives that you have that you just, now I know you said, unfortunately, you weren't raised around your grandparents, but the relatives that you had alive when you were young and you don't know any better and it's not important to you. Each and every one of those holds treasures that you can't get back later.
Yeah, I had grandmothers. My grandfathers died before I was born, but I had the two grandmothers. But man, I wish I'd known and thought to ask, and paid more attention. And even my dad was the sixth child and a boy, so he's out in the yard and whatever. And my aunts are washing dishes in the kitchen after Thanksgiving dinner and hearing all the gossip and all the stories. And there's so many things that now I think, oh, Auntie Mary would have known the answer to that question.
Yeah.
And I never asked Auntie Mary, so wish I would have.
I know, I do the same thing. I think, man, I just kick myself sometimes. I'm like, I want to be able to go back in time now and whisper in my ear, ask her this. Write down this or take notes, because all those things we think we're going to remember, we really don't. So I've been talking to my own mom lately, and we'll try these little exercises where we're spurring each other's memories, and sometimes she'll still come up with something that totally shocks me. I'm like, I didn't know you knew that about that family member, or you know what I mean? Oh, I've never heard that story, and I'm a grandmother now many times over. So it's really great. I'm really I feel blessed that I still have her, and my in-laws are both still here. But yeah, for all the ones that I have lost, I think, man, there's so much knowledge, just so much knowledge that's gone now from that generation.
My mom died when I was in high school. My dad died about 12 years ago. But after he died, he sent me a message from heaven to like a newspaper thing that I swear he wanted me to look at, about, you asked, this is a great story. You asked about things I discovered about my family.
Yes.
So, after my dad died, I was doing some research on, there had been a little girl that drowned, and I knew about that, and I talked to my dad about that. But I did a ton of research and wanted to know who the pallbearers were. I wanted to know everything. And why do you pick those men for pallbearers to carry the little coffin? She's just 15 months old. And so there was a guy named Jack Hyde that was one of the pallbearers at Jimmy Ahern's daughter's funeral. It's like, okay, so who's Jack Hyde and why did Jimmy pick him? So I got to learn all about Jack Hyde. And one day, don't you know, Jack Hyde had been visiting his nephew, Phil Redmond, in the hospital. Okay, so now I got to know why Phil Redmond is in the hospital.
Right.
You got nothing to do with this funeral, but now I'm hooked on, I got another name that I have to research. And so I start researching Phil Redmond, and he was in a bad railroad accident and a train derailed. His uncle was the engineer and thrown far from the locomotive and had internal injuries and died 5 days later. And Phil was not thrown so far, and he was badly scalded and had skin grafts from over 300 men. And
Wow.
the names, I've collected about 150 names out of the newspaper because I want to know who all these guys were and why are they donating skin. And I saw an article that said Charles Kirsch. Okay. I saw another one the next week that had Charles Richer and Charles Percher. None of those names are right. That was my grandfather, Charles Kircher, that donated skin.
They had just put the name in there wrong.
Right. And I had this vision of my father and grandfather at a bar in heaven saying, oh, we got to get Mary started on this one. Just watch your little tail wag. And so I never would have, known that. But I just really, that was a message that my dad sent me from heaven. Look at this, Mary. Because he knew how into this stuff I was. So
that's an incredible.
Listen, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Makes you really appreciate all those little things you find and the moments you can still have nowadays.
Yeah.
After they're gone. So now, if you had to give one tip to new genealogists or family historians, what would that be?
Study the whole family group, and not even just the family group. You got to study the associates and the neighbors, and like they are your own. Discovered I've been looking for my husband's ancestor, Bartley Roddy. Where did he come from in Ireland? I've been using his name for 38 years. I guess I better figure out where he came from. And by studying random neighbors, not related at all, but random neighbors on the 1860 and 1870 census who lived near the Roddys in Ohio, I tracked them and I was able to find them back to Ireland and these little townlands that are really close to and close enough to where, I got kind of a general area for Bartley Roddy near Ballina, and I've got like 4 townlands and then the DNA match also in that same area. And there's absolutely no reason. I'm crazy sometimes to think that I should be looking at some guy living next door to my ancestor who's from Ireland. But, I got a couple hours. I'm going to put this in, and it paid off.
Yeah, and sometimes that works. And, and even during the times where families were migrating to new and exciting areas, there were a lot of times that families would migrate together, So if you're really looking at who the neighbors are and the people around them, and you see, oh, the Smith family lived, right by them, and oh boy, this other family lived right by them all the time too. And then you can't find them in 1860, go look for one of those other families because chances are they're right there.
Right there, yeah.
Something just is up with that record, but yeah.
So there's, if you get a brick wall, you just have to keep expanding that circle of people that you're researching, and you don't find it on the kids, and you look at the siblings, you don't find on the siblings, you look at the in-laws, you don't find on the in-laws, you look at the godparents or witnesses, and you don't find it there, you look at the census neighbors, and just keep getting bigger and bigger.
And eventually, while you're deep in that rabbit hole, you're hopefully going to find something within that, within that expanding circle. I know we've all gotten lost in those from time to time.
Yeah.
but it is a lot of fun, and it is kind of up to us to start the work on documenting our ancestors and keeping them alive for the younger generations,
Yeah.
so that when they do get old enough to appreciate it and know, how important it is, a lot of this foundation will already be laid for them.
Yeah. I was talking about, dressing up. I've got portraits in my dining room and I put hats on them and so forth. And my 4-year-old granddaughter, knows about the ancestors, and my kids are going to know, this one woman, um, Jane, she wears a Jane Jetson costume at Halloween, and they may not know much about her, but they will know that her name is Jane because that's her Halloween costume. She's Jane Graham Ahern.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so great. Do you have many things that are actually passed down from your family as far as like household items or?
Not too much. I have those pictures. I have a thimble, a Kircher thimble that Charles Kircher, Carl Conrad Friedrich Kircher, the immigrant, he was a tailor, and he gave his wife Augusta a sterling silver thimble, and I have that. I have those portraits.
That's really great
Yeah,
though.
yeah,
Just any little thing that you have that
yeah,
yeah. I think
yeah,
sometimes you don't realize how important those things can be until you see somebody that's received something like that that's been
yeah,
handed down,
yeah,
or maybe, wasn't expected.
yeah,
So
yeah. And I do have a silver serving spoon that obviously was a wedding gift to my grandparents. It says AB and CK engraved into the handle of it for
oh,
Agnes Bradley and Charles Kircher. So
that is
that's
so
cool.
neat.
Yeah. Pull that out at the holidays to serve with.
That's really awesome.
How about
Yeah.
you? Do you have cool?
I don't a lot. My husband's family does.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the stuff that we had in my family, we unfortunately had a house fire when I was young. And so, all family pictures and just everything we basically had went up.
Mm-hmm.
But we were all fortunate. It was just a home. But it's really cool
Yeah.
because, like my mother-in-law, she has butter churns, the old butter churns from,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that were handed down. And we actually use those to make 7-day pickles in. We don't churn butter in them, but they're great crocks to make 7-day pickles in. So if you're ever wondering what to do with something like that. And then she has just some amazing quilts, and she has one of the old, like the hand tied beds and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
cool. Very cool.
yeah, she has one quilt that has initials, that has all the initials around it, and she's been trying to
Uh-huh.
figure out who, each one of them is, with like the dates and stuff. So that's really cool.
Neat. Neat.
Janine says she has an old coffee grinder, belonged to her great grandmother.
Oh, really neat. I have a postcard that a cousin sent me. My grandfather was born in Webster, New York, and went to Dartmouth. And then after college, he thought he'd travel around the country a little bit and go to visit cousins in Chicago and cousins in Kansas. And then, oh, there's those neighbors from Webster that moved to some place called Santa Fe, California, and I'll go see them and then I'll settle down and get a job. Well, when he went to Santa Fe, California, he met a pretty girl there, and that was all she wrote. So he he's the one that didn't become a doctor. He became a marine engineer and operated the ferry boats. He was an engineer on the ferry boats that used to run from Marin County to San Francisco before there was a Golden Gate Bridge. And so I have a postcard that somebody had visited California and sent a postcard back home and said, "This is Charles Kircher's boat. I wrote on it this week." And
Oh,
that's
that is
kind of
so
fun.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so Steven says, oh, he has some of his grandma's clothespins, the no spring ones,
Oh,
and he used to put them together as a plate. I remember those.
those memories are so cool to have that.
I know, they are
Yeah.
so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use this grandmother's bread box. And
Uh-huh.
that's just something that you don't even see usually in a kitchen anymore. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um I love stuff like that. It's awesome. Okay, so for people watching, do we have any final questions? We're all going to talk about what we have now. Oh, quilts, more quilts.
Nice.
And I noticed somebody above too said you need to hook up with Mary Richardson. She is one of our big quilters that's very active on WikiTree, and she talks in our weekend chat and stuff like that. Her quilts are amazing. They were like, oh wait, Mary needs to go meet Mary now, because I think she even has pictures of some of her quilting on WikiTree itself on some of our space pages. So it's always fun to see what other people are doing in their spare time.
Yeah, that's neat. My husband's grandmother and great grandmother were quilters, and actually, we do have a couple of quilts that they made. So that's
that's awesome.
Yeah.
My grandmother crocheted, so she was really big on crocheting stuff, and my mom did too. She crocheted Afghans and whatnot, but not the actual, like the quilt behind you. I'm in Kentucky now, and this is a big quilting state, so you see a lot of quilting examples here. Are just really beautiful quilts.
I was there a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, and saw the quilt trail and barns with
all the barns.
Quilts.
I still love the barns, and so many of them do that. They put the big quilting square or multiple quilting squares up on the barns. I think that is so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Definitely not something you see back on the West Coast.
No.
Oh no, that's cool.
Yeah.
He has his third great grandmother's painting, so definitely has some longevity to it. Hopefully you have a really good way, John, of maintaining that and preserving it. It's really difficult when you come down to things like that, like the paintings and whatnot. Oh, Shelly says her mom still crochets at 91. I do occasionally, but I think by the time I'm 91, I won't have the patience for it. I have a lot of patience, but yeah, unless it's something small. I usually crochet, and I give things to like the Ronald McDonald House for the babies. The little quilts and the little hats and stuff like that.
I also you did ask about heirlooms. I have some diplomas. My husband is a professor, and I'm a genealogist, so these family diplomas are kind of like the intersection of education and genealogy. So I have my grandfather's diploma from Dartmouth. It's real sheepskin and all in Latin, Carolum Arthurum Cursor. And I have another, it's huge. My grandmother's 8th grade diploma from Tiburon Grammar School. And it's got this really cool, the symbol of California with Athena and the bear. And it's just so cool. So we have a stairwell outside of our kitchen that I have, I don't know, like 25 diplomas. I mean, my kids, mine, my husband's, my dad's, my grandparents. It's really cool.
That's really neat. It looks like we have another crocheter out in the audience. She's going to post it in Discord. A hat and scarf for my stepdad. Well, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Hey, and anything that keeps your hands busy during the winter, because it's either WikiTree research or if you need to break, some crocheting or quilting, those are good for you.
I'll show you one more thing. This is a little Christmas ornament I made. And these are acorn caps.
Awesome.
That I made wool balls. And I got to tell you about where these acorn caps came from. In September, I went back to visit my friend who sucked me into genealogy, my friend Barb. She now lives in outside of Philly. And so one day when I was there, we took a drive up to Millstone, New Jersey, which is about 5 miles from New Brunswick, about 5 miles west of New Brunswick. And I had used some map sites, and my great-great-grandfather, James Ahern, owned property there. And I was able to use mapping sites and whatever to figure out where the property is. It's now part of a big park that has a little nature trail. So Barb and I went there. We're walking on this little nature trail, and His name was James Ahern. A variant of the name Ahern is heron. There's a little pond there. And what do you think I saw in that pond but a heron? I mean, I think that was a message from him. You found the right place, Mary. This was it. And so I picked up a bunch of acorns and I made them into little wool acorns that will be Christmas gifts from my siblings this Christmas.
That is so cool. Very creative. Stephen House's grandmother's 1928 8th grade graduation book and photos of her diploma. I don't even have photos of my diploma anymore. That was many chapters ago.
We had a plumber in our house, I don't know, a year or so ago. And I think I wasn't home. But the guy came down to the basement to look. And I mean, he made a comment to my husband. He says, "See, you guys are Catholic, huh? I am too." And Mark was like, "How do you know?" It's like, and when Mark told me the story, it's like, because he saw the diplomas, Seattle University, Blanchette High School. So Moraine Catholic High School. Yeah. So anyway, that was kind of interesting, but people
funny.
can tell something about us from what's hanging on the wall.
Just casually walked through and picked up on that.
Yeah.
Very, very observant.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap it up for the night because I know, Mary, we have got people that have been beyond anxious to start on your branches.
Chomping at the bit. Okay.
And yeah, they can officially
have at it, guys.
Yeah, they can officially start now. So I want to thank you for coming on this evening and spending time with us. And thank you guys for all of you that are going to be working on Mary's branches. I know you'll have fun in the meantime too, but we still do appreciate all of the hard work. For anybody that wants to know more, you can check us out on wikitree.com. And don't forget to like the videos, subscribe if you haven't already to get alerts. And we'll say goodnight.
Thank you so much, you guys. I'm